Hi friends. I want to share a story with you about someone remarkable, and it's from this book again, the Holy Troublemakers book. Remember, this has stories about people who have done and continue to do remarkable work in our world to make this world a better place. Today I want to share the story of Lisbeth Meléndez Rivera. She was born in Puerto Rico into a Catholic family, and her faith was a big part of her life growing up. Her family always placed a great importance on taking care of people, making sure that people had enough and were loved. She tells a story about La Noche de San Juan, the night of St. John, which was a big holiday in Puerto Rico where the people would go out into the ocean. And at midnight, they would dunk themselves into the water 7 times as a ritual, a symbol of the cleansing of a baptism. She tells that story because her Catholic faith was such an important part of who she was. When she went to college, she went to Boston, and she came out as a lesbian. And sadly, she found that her church was not supportive of this. She felt very isolated, very alone, very unloved. But because of her faith, because that she felt that Jesus would want her to take care of people, she continued to volunteer, to do good work. And she worked in a hospital in Boston as a phlebotomist. And this was in the 80s. And so at the time, she saw many people that were sick in the hospital with the disease we now know was AIDS. At the time, they didn't know what this was, and people were dying at a really rapid rate. And sadly, because people did not understand HIV and AIDS, they didn't understand how it was spread. And because of that fear, many of the people that were in the hospital were alone. And because so many of the people who had AIDS were gay, many of them had been turned away by their family already. And so she found that these people who were there were suffering, were sick, and they were very much alone. And so she decided that she would be there for them. She recognized that Jesus would be the one who would be sitting with the sick, and that's what mattered to her. She co-founded a peace and justice group on her college campus. And she, before the slogan officially became known so well, what would Jesus do? She said, "I work every day to make sure people can be who they are, love who they love, and practice their faith and spirituality without getting bullied or ostracized." It was important to her that people, regardless of what their faith was, that they could find a worshiping community, a temple, a mosque, a church, where they felt safe, where they felt included, where they were not on the outside. She says, I want LGBTQ people to feel embraced, loved, and celebrated when they go to church, temple, mosque, or any place of worship. I want to make sure Jesus doesn't get used to justify hate. She has this background with so much love from her family, and she has taken that to love so many people, to make sure people do not feel alone, to make sure they know they are celebrated, welcomed, and loved for who they are. She lives with her wife in Washington, D.C. now with lots of fur babies and continues this work, almost 40 years that she has worked to make sure so many people feel loved and included. Isn't that wonderful? May we all be able to find some way to show love, inclusion, celebration for those around us, no matter what ways we may be the same or different. Have a good week, friends.